Alright, we've got a much better selection of packages this week. I guess I should probably start opening these up so I can have room for the fourth package. These are all, you know, smaller onesie-twosie setups. Okay. Let's try that. But, but these, I mean, nothing bad, just, I guess I'm allowed to, what do you mean allowed to? Mostly just dealing with, I guess I haven't eaten anything. I just ate 2 Oreo cookies for lunch. Oh, good. I think I know what I'm probably going to be putting on and watching next. Might not be much of a surprise to y'all, given my reaction, the fact that I just went and put this on the top of the pile. But, one more box. And I think it's unfortunate, because I think last week I mentioned this was a potential thing that was... I think this was the one that was a potential thing that was maybe going to show up in time for last week's video, but probably wouldn't, and it didn't. It showed up like Friday. So 3 days late. Let's see, did I get enough of it? Yes, I did. Now the interesting thing is this box is actually from Right Stuff. It's just not their usual box, I guess, because it was ordered through Amazon, even though it has the regular packaging on the inside. Yeah, it's a weirdness. I might be mistaken about this being the one that was shipped. They did expedited shipping, but you know, given that we are... Yeah, I think this is, and yeah, here's the receipt. I think this was the one, but let's go ahead and just begin with Dr. Stone's Dr. Stone Season 1, which, as you can see, appears to be designed to hold Part 1 and Part 2. There's definitely some texture stuff here. So all of these clay parts, those have some sort of texture to them. Interesting. Oh, this too. So the Dr. Stone part is completely textureless. The back here is. The bottom here has texture. Either that or I got it really bad, but I doubt that. It seems to me a very intentional thing. Let's see, this is limited edition, keychains, art stickers and cards, art book, science advisor, regions A and B, that's good. Textless opening and ending. Okay, well, this gets set aside. Sorry, I know I just took a pause while on camera, but I was just thinking probably not a bad idea for me to not only take a look at Season 2 Part 1 here, which I think that lists the special features it was talking about before. But, you know, no different on the inside, so not unexpected, I suppose. Blu-ray 3, Blu-ray 4, DVD 3. For a while there I thought that looked like Lavos. DVD 4. Do I remember that character or not? Yeah, it's probably just her, okay, I guess because it looked like her outfit was probably part of his, or maybe not? Okay, I have no fucking clue. I'll have to watch it to find out. Should probably take this and put it back in here. Yeah, let's just do it like that. Whatever. Let's see, so this one was on the bottom like that. This is a booklet, Season 1 art book. Flipping through it real quick. You know, I got the impression there's more character art than other kinds, but nothing like super mind-blowing. I think I can actually take everything out of here because I'm not going to put them back in. We got our keychains. You know what? I'm actually going to open this because I can't see them. And they look rubber, so they're kind of going to be... Yep. Okay, was this the girl he liked? Did she always look like she was wearing headphones? I think so, but I can't remember. Oh, these are actually some interesting stickers. I mean, you got characters, you got that. That's okay. Cards. This was the sixth sister, wasn't it? Oh, cool. This is reminding me of this stuff before I watch it. This is a really unusual container for these. I guess I'm opening these up permanently. There we go. Take it off without damaging anything, because I'm kind of curious. Yeah. Okay, I remember all these characters. Who the fuck is it? I should know this. Maybe it is a different point in time. I don't know. It didn't seem to be where this show is going. Now let me actually very quickly go over here, because I do believe, yeah, it's right here on the top of this pile. We got Season 1, Part 1. I think we will make this look more complete by putting that in there, just like that. Alright, next up we have... That is... I can't read that with that font. Hanasakeru Seishonen? I'm just trying to decide if this person in the middle is a guy or a girl. I can't tell if there's a breast there or not. It would change whether or not this is a reverse harem or a bunch of guys, ooh la la sort of anime, right? I see Japanese with English subtitles. And a husband hunting game 12 years in the making. Which makes me think this is a she, husband hunting, and this is a reverse harem. Jesus Christ, they look even more androgynous here. Hard to tell. I don't know. Maybe that looks kind of like a breast. Really hard to tell. That would be like the only thing I could tell, because I was just thinking that the character design itself was just too androgynous. Curious. I guess I don't know what to make of this show. In theory, that means that I would check it out to find out. In practice, I don't know. It means I'm on vacation and I'll do even more whatever I want to do. Big order. Dominate the world in order to save it. That's a fun kind of motto. There's some plastic here that doesn't want to. I'm just thinking that I'm doing a much better job of getting through this plastic, and I guess this thumbnail's gotten a little long. Not super long, but... See, I see Japanese with English subtitles. Don't know what to make of this. This is even more confusing. Because now it looks like a Japanese wedding, but this makes it look more action-y? What in the world? That man looks pretty happy. I say man, but that could be a girl. Probably a guy. You know, they usually make things like that into guys. That's even a thing. What the fuck is this? I'm honestly baffled. Kind of curious. Now, that said, whether or not I'll check it out is definitely up in the air. Dancouga. I do remember this being released on DVD, in particular because that's actually kind of a very cute character design in my opinion. But, you know, putting that aside, was this a mecha show? I mean, the name makes me think mecha, and I can feel that this is kind of bulging. Sayonara Earth? Question mark? Japanese with English subtitles. It's not wanting to come out. Interesting. I wonder what's causing it to stick. Is it that bulging feeling that I was feeling? I wonder if I'll even be able to put it back in there again. I expected this to be the same because I think this was what was on the DVD version, whatever I got. Super Beast Machine God. Not to be confused with Beast King Golion, which is another, you know, the Japanese name for Voltron, but very curious looking. Oh shit, that's snug. It's never coming out again, even though it did. Outburst Dreamer Boys. Wait, is that a boy? Because they're wearing a skirt. I wonder if they're a trap. It'd be weird if this was about a bunch of boys, but had a girl in it. But also it'd be kind of strange if it was about a bunch of boys and one of them looks like a girl or dresses like one. She wasn't looking for a hero, and now she's stuck with a whole team. Oh, interesting. Okay, so it's probably a reverse harem situation where I guess she was looking for... She wasn't looking for a hero, now she's stuck with a whole team. And so, now, whether or not they have superpowers, you know, this kind of makes it look like there's some superpowers involved, but regardless of whether or not they're superpowers, I guess these are all well-intentioned guys. It says stuck with, so they're probably eccentric. Could be interesting. Japanese with English subtitles. You know, we're getting a lot of those. Oh, there's special features there. Clean opening, closing, promos, and trailers, which is about expected. Region A. Curiosity. Yeah, that one looks a little more like, oh shit, I'm stuck in this crazy situation. And this makes it look like they all work for McDonald's. I say that as if it's McDonald's, but the truth of the matter is it's yeah, I don't know. Could be interesting. I think it's because of the Devil is a Part-Timer anime, and they weren't working for McDonald's specifically, but that was the general idea. Locke the Superman, which I don't think I have on Blu-ray, so well, I mean, obviously I do have it on Blu-ray, but I didn't think I had it before. But I've never seen it. Bought this. To fight a supervillain, you need a superhero. Audio. Yeah, that's Japanese with English subtitles. Region A. Well, just a little surprised because I could have sworn that it was released longer ago, but I couldn't remember specifically. Just got that impression, which means my impression is wrong in this case. Stars Align. This looks like something like tennis. It might not tennis specifically, but those look very specifically like tennis rackets, and I have hiccups. Okay, life has one heck of a serve. Region A, down here. This one has a dub. I do like it when the slipcover and the internal cover are different. Okay, these are the same people as over there, just swapped. Both in different action poses. Although it was the same image from the back, but that's not a problem. This is a kind of basic presentation, I would think, where you have the image conveying the idea of the anime on the front, and that same image in smaller on the back where it's also giving other stuff. Whereas this one is called Alternative Art, the cover, or something like that. I did already look at the stuff on the back, so let's put that down. There's a lot more characters there. And honestly, I can't tell from this angle either. I'm sure y'all just can't see a thing. Yeah, I didn't quite know. It's kind of hard to read. What does this show like? What's it about? Okay, so it shows a lot of guys, but it shows another person that looks like a girl, at least. Probably either a fan or, oh, she's coach, kind of? And I forgot to put this back in. Hard to tell. You know, just at a glance. I don't know much about it. The name doesn't stand out to me. This one I gotta be a little more careful about opening, because, well, we do have the topless man on the front. I do believe this is like a Cleopatra, which I opened like a month ago, and that one is actually a Tezuka Hentai. I say hentai, but, you know, it'd be probably more accurate to say it's an adult animation, where it... I mean, I didn't watch it, so I don't know the exact details, but yeah, I'm having to open it off screen just because the other one taught me that, oh yeah, there could be stuff. And so far, I'm not noticing anything bad. Okay, so we got 1001 Nights. You know, we got that and that. And the main thing I was worried about... Okay, yeah, is whether or not it's showing any naughty bits. Just because some level I just tolerate, but I do want to be careful about going too extreme. I mark my videos as not being for kids. Well, let's see. Feisty, freewheeling vision of the Arabian Nights. Aladdin to 40 Thieves to Sinbad and beyond. And yeah, this is Osamu Tezuka's, which I do believe is Astro Boy fame. I think I'll put this aside because I'm probably going to list it as hentai, but I'll double check. And pretty much I'd only be listing it that way because, you know, if it's adult 18 plus, definitely, then yeah. Violet Evergarden. This one should probably be high priority just because everybody was talking about this when it aired. Regions A and B, English dub. None of these are looking like special features. That was in there upside down. Which is okay as long as, you know, the contents are still there. So we got different cover on the front. That's, again, nice. Okay, so did I do everything? I said A, B, I said English dub. Did I say let's open it and take a peek on the inside where we see garden, snow, I think drawings of characters. Very rough sketches. Maybe very rough isn't quite right. This could be like keyframe stuff. Keyframe-ish sort of stuff, except it's missing some of the notes, but hopefully you got better imagery of what's in there from that angle. Oh. Yeah. Next up we've got Ajin, the OAD collection. This, yeah, I'm pretty sure I don't have this, but I don't think I watched the second release of Ajin stuff. It's strange. It's not necessarily bad, but I don't know. From what I vaguely remember, there was the interesting first season release thing, and then the second was, well, I guess I got the feeling it wasn't ending quite the way I was hoping it would for going forward. So this is Japanese with English subtitles only. Death is fleeting. 3 episodes on 1 disc. Okay. Oh no, he's got some holes in his chest. That's not good for the chest. Last but not least, we have Lupin the Third, The Secret of Twilight Gemini. Which, the Twilight Diamond's rock-solid secret is about to be cracked, but why Gemini? Because, you know, it seems like you mix words together like that, and you're promising, okay, you better be kind of as cool as those words mixed. Which I think Lupin the Third tends to, but I don't watch enough of the stuff to really say for certain, other than, you know, just babbling incoherently like a retard, but... Region A. Looks like there's English dub. Which I think for a lot of the Lupin stuff is no surprise, but there's some of it that's... looks like this is a full version of the poster here. I can understand why they would shrink it. I mean, it's not that important that you see, you know, that guy's sexy legs or something like that. Actually, his sexy legs are there just fine. It says sexy feet. Wow, why is this not going back in? Oh my god. What the fuck? Okay. And we'll go ahead and put this back on here since I'll figure out how I'm classifying it afterwards. So, here's this week's anime DVD collection update. I guess I didn't watch a whole lot of anime. I am holding Azure Lane, and I did watch the first 2 episodes of this. Although, I definitely was a little more spaced out for the second episode. So, I guess, for me, I found that it was not... I mean, it wasn't bad. It just kind of failed to actually get my attention, specifically from a storytelling perspective. For the most part, it's kinda, at least the anime when it starts out, flawed in that regard, because it's like, I think part of the problem is, you know, this is an anime adaptation of a video game, and whatever the video game would normally have you do, I don't know, but there's just this deluge of characters, and they tell you, well, after this event, or it's like, oh, are we going to be about that stuff? Oh no, we're not about that stuff. That was just a... I can't even tell if it's really even a brief passing, because the idea is humanity lost control of the waters because of some otherworldly creatures called sirens, which I guess are just girls or something. I don't know. I haven't seen them. Show up and take control of the waters, and then eventually, because of the adaptation to the siren technology, incorporating it or using it or whatever, 4 major powers are able to kind of regain control. Oh, but for some reason 2 of them are like, well, we believe in using the siren technology, and we're not going to explain why, but we're teaming up to conduct war against you. And the anime goes with the thing, war never changes, but it doesn't really feel like it understands war. It doesn't feel like it's expressing war. I mean, when I think about it, there wasn't even really all that much war being talked about in, like, Saga of Tanya the Evil, but that war felt more like real world, and part of that is because it was actually inspired by a real world, or real war, sorry. World War One, and so they could kind of behind the scenes borrow some of the, I guess, mindsets and desires that kind of drove that, but it wasn't really about that. But then this one begins with that as the first episode, and a pretty unclear who are we supposed to be watching this series through, because it's kind of setting up a couple of different characters, but for the most part we're like, oh, this is a war because the writers decided there just needed to be one, so it could have battleship girls fight each other. And it's not like the battles are bad, it's just from a storytelling perspective, I'm like, I don't feel invested in watching this. I mean, the closest thing is that, like, here it puts Enterprise on the front, but it's not setting it up as a story about Enterprise. And even worse, it probably should have been setting it up as a story about some of the other characters, because they're the ones with the most interesting conflict that we've seen before, which is, we don't feel like fighting, and we happen to run into this girl ship from the other army that we kind of like, and we think she's probably a good person, but I don't know, for some reason they all have to fight anyways, and they kind of don't want to, and I know it's not, I didn't find it to be very gripping, and my describing of it probably won't do it justice if it's something that would differ for other people, but the idea there is that would be interesting, but they kind of establish Enterprise as also the name Grey Ghost, and she is this kick-ass, and we do see her kind of show up and kick ass, but it seems like the show doesn't really know who it wants to be telling the story through, so it just kind of doesn't seem to have a real story. And I've been really thinking about story a lot because, well, first of all, I watched a Filmento video that was talking about how a good story needs to establish a day in the life. And some people can misunderstand what that means because they're like, oh, like The Dark Knight begins with action, but that action isn't about the main conflict of the story, it's about the day-to-day lives of these people. The Joker is conducting these kind of heists, the Batman is, capturing these kind of villains, and it's designed to kind of show you what they are, and then the instigating moment happens where now they're going to cross paths, where the Joker reaches out to the mob to say, I'll take care of Batman. And, that's not necessarily an instigating thing between Joker and Batman immediately, but that's a thing that drives the story forward for changing, because it shows you the status quo, shows you what's going to start the change, starts going through the change, or something like that. And, when I'm thinking about stuff like that, sometimes I'm going back and thinking about, like, there's an old movie that hopefully most of y'all have heard about called 2001: A Space Odyssey. And when I was thinking about that, I kind of realized there's 3 stories going on there. And one of the stories is an overarching story that kind of covers all the others, where, like, you have the Dawn of Man segment, which is its own story, and could almost be its own little movie if they wanted it to be, or its own little short story, short movie, something like that. Jupiter Mission could be its own little standalone thing, and that's a thing that most people remember in terms of the story of the movie. But I think the reason that movie kind of leaves a lasting impression is because there's this overarching movie that doesn't quite include Dawn of Man, but Dawn of Man is kind of a setup for it. But the instigating moment for that is the monolith on the moon scene, and the resolution to that is the Jupiter and Beyond sequence at the very end of that movie. And you kind of realize, you can kind of take a look at that and realize you got a story about Ancestral Man, you got a story about Bowie, Poole, and Hal, and then you got a story about humanity. That's what the entire movie's about. And so you can kind of digest it as that story within story thing and whatnot. And, I've been really appreciating that, just because despite the movie's flaws, and they're not like critical flaws, it still has storytelling going on in there that I'm like, oh yeah, that stuff's really interesting. And then you got this where it's like, so you got this instigating factor, which is these 2 sides fighting each other, but you really don't have a day in the life, so you're really not quite sure what's the purpose of this instigating. It almost gives you the feeling, based on
the younger ships that maybe they were in more peaceful times, and maybe there were some implications of that, but it sounded like there were some implications that maybe events with the Sirens are still happening. So then I don't feel like we got this real good day in the life transition sort of thing. And that goes hand in hand with the problem of, if, you know, those younger ships aren't supposed to be the main character, if Enterprise is supposed to be, then we didn't really get to see what Enterprise's day-to-day life is. We just kind of see that Enterprise kicks ass and shows up. And it's also possible that it's just a problem that the show and, you know, because the game and the show because of the game just has too many characters and suffering from Naruto syndrome. Maybe calling it Naruto syndrome isn't quite right, because there's a lot of problems with Naruto. And one of those is just that, you know, it ends up, you know, it's a series that's supposed to be, it's called Naruto, so you kind of watch it hoping it'd be about Naruto in some way, but then it turns out to be about everybody else for half the series, because they're needing to create a bunch of filler, because they can't really make it about Naruto because they can't progress the story, because the story progression needs to take place after a time jump that they can't do because the manga wasn't there yet or something like that. So, you know, that was one of the problems with Naruto, and that's one of the ones that I guess pains me the most, is that, you know, all the characters in that show are cool, but it spends too much time on them and doesn't make it real. It doesn't ever really feel like it's about the main character until like halfway through Shippuden. Which is different from My Hero Academia, because My Hero Academia, even though they have arcs that are about other characters, you kind of feel like Deku continues to be kind of an integral part of it choosing to cover that stuff. Like, it has little distractions, but it doesn't feel like it's detracting from the idea that the show My Hero Academia sets itself up where Deku is the main character, and it feels like it doesn't move away from that. It feels like everything is about setting it up where the next relevant thing about him is going to happen at the worst. And yeah, it's unfortunate, because there's probably plenty of good stuff about this. I mean, nothing about it struck me as bad. The weirdest thing was I'd only watched the first episode when one of y'all asked me to say if this was censored, and I'm like, was there anything in the first episode that would be worth censoring or could even be uncensored? So that's why I gave it another episode. I was going to give it more than that, but I guess I just got too distracted. You know, I'm really sitting here enjoying my PTO. But episode 2 did have some moments where I could see why somebody could ask if they were uncensored, but they were censored, and it seems to me it was designed from the outset to be censored. Where you had, I think there were 3 scenes that made me think about it, where there was skirts that could be in different locations that would reveal stuff that could be considered something that could be censored, but those skirts were still in that same place, and it seemed to me just the way it was designed. And then there was one scene where one of the young ships pulled down the top of the other young ship, and it was cut and edited in a way that could suggest censorship, and maybe there was, and this means by censorship I mean that an uncensored version could exist, but I didn't see it. So either there's uncensored versions out there and this isn't it, and I'm trying to see who did this. I think that's Funimation's logo, so it would make sense. They've been very iffy on terms of promising uncensored versions of stuff and then saying, ooh, no, we're going to be Puritans about this one, because yeah, I don't know. I can kind of understand why they'd be in a dilemma and a rock and a hard place, but it does kind of put them at odds with an anime community that's just like, I don't know. So that's a whole lot of stuff to talk about for Azure Lane. And again, you know, the character designs are kind of neat. I don't know if I really buy the idea of the girls aren't actually battleships themselves. Actually, it hasn't really explained much of anything other than it implies they were created, and what happens is you got the real battleships, but when they go out, the battleships kind of teleport and combine with the girl or something like that. So she kind of is the battleship and kind of isn't the battleship. And it had these fleets showing up out of nowhere sort of thing, which doesn't make sense, because it would make sense if you had somebody that was literally one person showing up with an entire fleet on their body or something like that. And it's just, you can't notice a tiny speck when it turns into a fleet suddenly, but it wasn't doing that. It was a fleet of artificial siren ships that are just like, oh, yeah, by the way, these are here and these are a problem now. Why didn't we see these coming? I mean, I could understand if they were distracted, but it's not like they teleported. I would assume that there's, you know, usually people trying to look for that stuff. And maybe this is a problem where, because the series is like these ships are actually individual girls, each ship is an individual person instead of teams of people that are working together and have different purposes. And so, you know, would notice, oh, hey, I know everybody else is focusing on these people in the front that we're attacking, but there's some other baddies coming from that direction that we should be aware of. Which didn't really change anything. The fact that they didn't notice it was just, maybe that's a problem with the action, in that maybe the action is little, I'm trying to think of the right word to describe it, because maybe it kind of just jumps from beat to beat and not necessarily taking a step back and saying, what kind of story are you trying to tell here? It could be one of those shows that's very closely related to, oh, this would be cool. And they're at least showing people like taking damage, getting knocked out. I don't think we're worried about people dying, but then again, we don't usually worry about battleships dying until they actually die. And I think Hentai Collection maybe kind of drove that home a little bit better. And that's the other real problem. I really should have rewatched like the first episode of Hentai Collection to see how it compared, because I don't remember a thing. I can't tell you if that one did better story-wise. What were they even doing in that? I didn't think they were battleship girls fighting battleship girls. What was going on in there? I can't remember at all. You know, I try to think of other similar shows, and I think like Strike Witches, which at least gives us a main character to watch through. An interesting bad guy, if I remember correctly. Like, a little mysterious, you're not sure. I think it gives you some implication of day in the life stuff, but I don't remember too well. Which is weird. So, you know, take criticisms I have of this with a grain of salt. Doesn't necessarily mean it's bad. It just meant that I'm at least in that kind of a mood, and so it failed in that regard. Which I guess is good that Dr. Stone is on the list, because like I said, Dr. Stone, for all of its flaws, has been entertaining. The other thing I guess I mentioned, I was going to mention, is I did watch the first 4 episodes of Konosuba with a friend. And I don't know what he thought about it, but I really, really enjoyed it, even more the second time than the first time. I think it probably helps a lot that I knew when certain triggers that would normally make me go, I knew that they were very temporary, and I didn't have to worry about them when they were first introduced. I think a good example of this is Megumi, where she first is introduced, I'm like, oh, is she another person from Japan, except that she was a, oh fuck, why am I forgetting what that's called? You know, that middle schooler syndrome thing. Oh fuck, I really have forgotten that word. But no, I think that's just the thing that she does in general that's supposed to represent that. But the show does not really drag down because of that. I feel like sometimes it's really easy for those things to drag down a show, where it's just like the character's clearly trying too hard, and the show's like, well, we're gonna pause and watch them try too hard. I'm like, I don't want to watch them try too hard. And Konosuba's a good anti. It's not an anti-something. It's a. It does deconstruct the isekai tropes pretty well in terms of just, you know, making sure everybody's just kind of like. I don't know. It just throws the story elements out there while deliberately underplaying them. And some of this is pretty, you know, front and center and very obvious, and some of it is not as front and center, but still really up there. Like, an example that just kind of made me giggle was just how they're like, well, we successfully adventured, let's go, and then it's heroic music, and the sequence is just them all doing fucking day labor. You know, something where it's just like, Yeah, you know, that's what it would actually really be like if you ended up in another world. You wouldn't be like this suddenly rich person. You'd find yourself just as struggling to make money as anybody else, and so you'd probably be doing the same sorts of things that, you know, people who are struggling to live day-to-day life do. And yeah, it's not that they successfully did something, it's that they successfully signed up to be adventurers. And then, yeah. And yeah, I giggled a lot more watching it this time, just because I could appreciate just how much it was taking the standard isekai narrative and just, here you go, have a huge heaping dump of reality. And of course, you know, I actually like Darkness as a character the most. When it comes to the character designs, a lot of them are actually just pretty good, I guess. Even Junk Goddess Aqua, although I never really noticed how short her skirt was. For some reason this time I really noticed. But, you know, all that stuff, they're all really fun characters, and Darkness I just really end up liking because her personality is not one that is pulled off usually as well and does such a good job of just completely totaling everybody's expectations and scripts. The Demon Lord General thing at the very first, sorry, in episode 4, I guess, is probably the best example. And it's funny because for people who are like big fans of Megumin, that's also a pretty strong Megumin episode, just because there's so many explosions. Yeah, so many. So, you know, I think Konosuba is just kind of amusing, especially when you've seen a lot of them and you enjoy them, and you're like, not only does it flip the script on its head, but it stays entertaining while doing it, and it's just entertaining and amusing. You can just kind of enjoy the shit show that goes on and realize that, oh, even though these girls are going to start saying, oh my god, our main hero is such a pervert, and he will react to that, he will then turn it against them. Intentionally or unintentionally, and it's just sort of like, you know, this show stays on top of all these little things that I feel tend to be little annoyances that can really build up and drag a show down. So, kudos to Konosuba. You know, rewatch, it's doing a pretty good job of maintaining its own. But let's see. Other than that, I don't know that I have much to really talk about. I haven't done anything worth noting video game wise. There's been a little Phasmophobia. I don't think there's been any Among Us. Just watching Toast and Halfu play, pretty much. You know, kind of the ultimate crewmate and the ultimate imposter-ish. You know, you could think of them that way if you wanted to. For VRChat Unity stuff, it's really just been mostly Avatar upkeep stuff. Yeah, because that's why I didn't watch any anime over the weekend, because I was moving my Doki Doki Literature Club character models over from Avatar SDK 2 to Avatar SDK 3, so that I could also identify stuff I needed to clean them up. They actually look a lot more vibrant now on PC side. You know, I guess I never realized I needed to do that one thing, but yeah. But none of it's really new stuff. It's mostly just upkeep stuff, so I don't know. Hopefully these discussions have been entertaining and thoughtful, and people with questions got answers. I guess I should really pre-order the rest of this month's anime so that everything arrives. So I'll try to take care of that today so that we don't have another one where I don't have anything, because we should save that for end of the year room tour. Don't know why there would be anything to do, but yeah. Blah, 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 blah. Y'all, have a nice week.